Hi, hello. Welcome to
Hey,
the Love of the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. That is Bryan Broaddus. He is the co-host of the G-Bag Nation on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas, heard 2 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. As I just said, he is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. We're produced, as always, by Peyton Russell. He's fantastic. He's a great boyfriend, just a real stand-up individual, and my personal life hero. Peyton, you should pop in here just to wave hi real quick, just so everybody can see. Every once in a while, we like to have Peyton just flash in and wave hi.
What's up, guys?
There he is. There's Peyton and his wonderful mustache. Just a great dude, Peyton Russell right there. All right, Peyton, thank you for that. Bryan, how's your week been?
been good, Robert. Working on the draft, much like you have. We've had draft shows we've been on. 105.3 The Fan had a good week talking various subjects, but we're getting close. We're getting close to this draft. We're going to wake up one morning, and next thing you know, it's going to be, okay, Bobby, tell us who the Cowboys is going to pick there, that Thursday. So, yeah, a lot going on, but it's good. I this time of year, I really, really enjoy it. I know getting to visit with some folks that had come back from the combine, kind of get some of their thoughts on, what they saw with the players, some of the interviews. So, yeah, busy time gathering information.
Yeah, let's and we're going to take the opportunity in this show today to kind of just do a broad overview of the draft class. We haven't gotten a chance to dive really deep into things yet. So we're going to talk about where draft is strong, where maybe it's a little thinner, some people that could be in play for the Cowboys at 24, what may have gone ahead of the Cowboys in this draft. So today we're just going to kind of do a general draft 101 for the 2024 NFL draft and kick around some thoughts on this because Bryan, I know how many players deep are you now? You're probably 280 now?
No, I'm I only go to 200. I'm about 150 right now. So I got about 50 more good ones to do.
Okay,
it's tough because what I'm trying to do is you're getting down into that fifth round, sixth round area, and now you're trying to kind of sort guys through who has these traits, who has that traits. Does this guy run a little bit better? Are you going to take a 5'8" running back? How about this 5'8" running back over this guy? There's all kinds of things. When you're trying to build your board and get your stack together. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that number, and I'm probably going to go from Caleb Williams all the way down to whoever player number 200 is. And, I'm going to put them in order of how I would take them. I'll post that on 105.3 The Fan, and I'm sure we'll get into it too on the Love of the Star podcast.
Yeah, I think I'm still a little behind you. I think I'm up to 116 now.
Okay,
I think is what I'm up to.
Good job.
And so yeah, we're making our deep dive here. So Bryan, just as a general overview of this class, I feel like in recent years, the last couple of years, we've talked about, hey, this is kind of a deep day 3 draft. Like this is a draft you'd love to have a bunch of day 3 picks on.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a great draft if you want to look at top heavy players.
Right.
The last couple of years, I think you and I both ended up with much fewer first round picks than we have in the past. I know
Sure.
The Cowboys themselves have said that they've had a lot fewer first round picks these last 2 years than they've had in previous years. I think things are a little bit different this year. It feels like it's kind of returned to normalcy a little bit in that I'm starting to, going through the process, I feel like I'm getting back to the normal number of first-round players this time around. It's looking like a deeper draft in a couple of different positional areas, offensive line, receiver. Those are really top-heavy, and there's some decent depth as you go down. But, Bryan, just strengths, weaknesses of the class, and as you look at it, do you say, hey, this is a class that's starting to look more like the pre-COVID ones that you felt like were pretty consistently, 20 to 24 first round picks or whatever it was, 20 to 22, and then normal depth across the board?
Yeah, I think that, everybody out there is kind of talking about, the offensive tackle group. We've been talking about the corner group. There's not any first round running backs that I feel like, but it looks like throughout from rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5, you could grab a guy and would probably be pretty good at it. Bobby, last night what I did was I was a little light on one techniques. And so I said, I'm going to go and just kind of nab a couple of these guys and I looked at a guy like McKinley Jackson, who is from Texas A&M, who plays as a one technique. And this is a guy that the Cowboys had a formal visit with and took a peek at him, took a peek at Mason Smith from my alma mater of LSU.
Really quickly, I want to identify for people who are new to these terms. Maybe you haven't gone into the draft before. Formal visits at the combine, you get 45 minutes. A formal visit is 20 minutes with a team in a suite or a boardroom or whatever else. Just basically 20 minutes with several members of the coaching staff, the front office, and you do whiteboard work. You answer questions. It's sort of just an opportunity for them to get an exclusive 20-minute audience with you to understand what do you think about football, how do you process the game, and different things like that. So that's what the formal visit is. And so it's of note whenever they meet with anybody at the combine formally.
Yeah, and thank you for explaining that, Bobby. You're absolutely right. And I apologize to our listeners out there because I should have explained that too. But yeah, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of knock out some of these one technique. And I don't feel like that the Dallas Cowboys currently have anybody. And we don't know what's going to happen with Mozzie Smith, but they don't have a one technique defensive tackle right now. Well, they re-signed a guy, but I mean, not anything of any substance or anything like that. So
sure,
that's where I'm kind of interested in where, again, McKinley Jackson from Texas A&M, Mason Smith, where these guys fit. And we all came out of the combine, understanding maybe the two top one techniques with Sweat from Texas and Fisk from Florida State, who had a great combine, But Dallas is going to have to look into this area. I think there's plenty of edge rushers. If Dallas wants to do that, we were starting to talk about day 3 guys. I kind of feel like there's a nice little run in there with that group. Maybe a nice little run with some cornerbacks too. This is why I feel like that Dallas, if they somehow can find a way to manipulate a pick, and maybe it's a simple little move, from 24 to 29 or something like that, 24 to 27, something a little simple. I know that I've seen some mocks where Dallas moved down to Buffalo's spot.
Yeah.
And Buffalo gave Dallas the 99, which is the third round, which is at the end of the third round. So now you're sitting there thinking, okay, Dallas doesn't have a pick to start day 3 in the 4th round. But okay, now you give me 99 on that trade down. Okay, it's a pick to end night 2 of the draft, which makes it a lot softer for me to think about not having that 4. You picked up a compensatory 5 today. You picked up a compensatory 6 today as well. So somehow if Dallas can manipulate to get the 4 back, then I would feel a lot better. And again, if it's going down to Buffalo's spot and picking up 99 to end night 2, man, that would make me feel a whole heck of a lot better about the situation that the Cowboys are in going into that final 3rd day.
Let's talk about what's going on ahead of the Cowboys at 24 in this draft class. Bryan, I know that for a lot of people, throughout if you go back to last fall, people would say Caleb Williams, Drake May, those are your 2 first-round quarterbacks. Coming out of Indy, it feels pretty solid. Like there's 4 first-round quarterbacks when you had J.J. McCarthy and Jaden Daniels. And then there's a lot of people who are saying, okay, the wild cards in this are Bo Nix at Oregon, Michael Penix at Washington. But you could have as many as 6 quarterbacks going ahead of the Cowboys, which would be great. That helps push some things down to you a little bit. If you can get 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 23 picks, I think the Cowboys would be happy with that. But just a general overview for you, how many quarterbacks do you think do go ahead of the Cowboys, and kind of your overall thoughts on the quarterback class?
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I have 3 quarterbacks in the first round on my board, with Williams from USC, Daniels from LSU, and I have Michael Penix as my 3rd guy from Washington. Is my 3rd.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and then now we start to talk about guys potentially. I've got 22 names on my first round board. So you've talked about the depth or where you're at. Sometimes it's Sometimes it's between 20 and 23 names, first round grades. Now you're starting to look at, okay, where's like who would be the quarterbacks that kind of fall below the 22 threshold for me. Drake May's that guy. J.J. McCarthy's that guy.
Is May quarterback 4 for you?
What's that?
Is May quarterback 4 for you?
He's quarterback 4. McCarthy's quarterback 5. Nix is quarterback 6. And then quarterback 7 I've seen so far is Leary from Kentucky. So, that would be the order. I've got these other quarterbacks that I've got to knock out, but I think I've seen the top ones is what I'm saying there. So you're absolutely right. The wild card on this one would be Bo Nix. And some people talk about him as a potentially first round guy. There's some that are maybe not so high on him. These quarterbacks are kind of all over the road. We've seen some of the guys and gals that talk about this on a daily basis on these programs. They're really diving into Drake May, and Drake May seems to be the one guy that's pretty polarizing when it comes to. You're starting to hear about the rise of J.J. McCarthy, So I think the fact that Penix that he threw at the combine, I think that really, really helped him solidify some things for some people. But, man, when you start to talk about May, McCarthy, Nix, that's where it gets kind of dicey for some teams, I believe.
Yeah, Drake May to me is the boomer bust guy at the quarterback spot. And I put him in the first round. I only had 2 quarterbacks in the first round. It was May and Williams.
Okay.
But I looked at – I also have Penix third. He is my quarterback 3, but I have him in the second round. I know I told you this before. A lot of people, I know Burglar's made this comparison, and I've heard it from others. A lot of people say that the high end of Drake May could end up being somebody like Justin Herbert. Like that could be the top end of his play. But then the floor can be somewhat concerning. I talked to one person who thought Brock Osweiler was a comparison for his floor. My comp for his floor was Connor Cook from Michigan State, who just a lot of arm talent. To me, here's the question I have about Drake May for you, Bryan. When you watched him, there are definitely times where he makes poor decisions.
Yes.
Like that's his biggest issue right now is poor decision making.
Yes.
Do you see a guy who makes poor decision making because of an irrational level of confidence in his arm to make the throw, or because he doesn't see it correctly?
I think he tends to stare. That's his biggest problem. And he's had games where he's thrown multiple interceptions. There's 3 games where you could watch him. He threw 2 interceptions against North Carolina State. He threw 2 interceptions against Minnesota. He threw 2 interceptions against App State. And the big problem I have with him is that he only had 1 top 25 victory. And that was against Miami. There's games where he threw 4 touchdowns in that game. So, he's capable of playing at a very, very high level, but I think that he will get away with some throws playing this way because he'll deliver the ball like throwing off balance.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, that should have been intercepted, and it wasn't. But the arm talent appears to be really good. And then I kind of saw, though, Bobby, there were times where the ball would die on him, and then watch him throw it, and the ball and the receivers, they've got some talented receivers there, and those guys were having to wait on the ball. So I felt like the accuracy could be a little hit and miss with him. So I've seen him throw it on target. I've seen others where the guys are on the move and he's completely missed them. But, when his receivers...
That's where I saw some Cook. That's where I saw some Connor Cook was just some questionable accuracy at times. The irrational belief in his ability to fit the ball into places where it shouldn't go. And there are just times where I see the decision making. There are times where he looks more like NFL quarterback on tape than anybody else in the class. There are times where it's really, really impressive and it all clicks together. It does show up in flashes. You just see it. It's just, you got to ask yourself, is it consistent enough? And so that's something that's led a lot of people to say Jaden Daniels from LSU could go ahead of Drake May. He's somebody who could be the second quarterback taken.
Yeah. This is the thing with, and I'm trying my best because I am an LSU alum, and it's not a homer deal at all. I mean, I'm not alone in saying that Jaden Daniels is better than Drake. I'm not alone.
No,
here.
a lot of people are saying
a lot
that
of people have him as the second best quarterback in the draft.
There's a lot of people who think that the Washington Commanders could take Daniels second overall ahead of May.
I'll tell you what, LSU won 10 games this year. They had a historically bad defense. Bad defense. This kid was the only reason that they were in games. The only reason. I mean, okay, I'm sorry. They had wide receivers. They had a couple wide receivers that were really, really, really good. That would be drafted
Malik Neighbors and Bryan Thomas.
No question. They have receivers that have elite skill. But for 2 years, this guy won games. For 2 years. I mean, this guy could deliver this ball on a rope. Or he could put enough air under it. He makes game-changing plays with his feet, his arm. I'm not making this stuff up. Go watch him play. He's sliding around in the pocket. It looks like he's trapped. All of a sudden, he goes running out of there. They beat Missouri in a game. They had no business beating Missouri in Columbia that day. And they win because of him and the plays that he was, I mean, he'll flag the ball. He'll hold it. I think he's got super strong hands for the way that he plays like that. But his lack of bulk might be a problem for some scouts. It might be a problem. I mean, 6'3" is not a problem, but the lack of bulk might turn people off. But man, this kid, he just has this ability to make plays when there's nothing there. And I have to give him a lot of respect for that.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast, the Love of the Stars and Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Bryan, we talk about the quarterbacks that could go ahead of the Cowboys there. And to be fair, you not having Drake May in the first round does not mean you don't believe Drake May won't go ahead of the Cowboys. He absolutely will. You know that. This is your own personal
I'm just saying my board.
Yeah.
I teach people, I tell people, don't window dress your board.
What's your guess?
Yeah.
What's your guess on how many quarterbacks you think go ahead of Dallas?
I like I told you, Bobby, I felt like when I looked at my board, I felt like the top three for sure. I think Penix is part of the three. I think they're going to be five. The question I have is Nix. That's the one I have the most question about. But I think Williams, Daniels, Penix, May, McCarthy will all probably go before Dallas picks.
Which is great. That pushes some guys down. And you got to imagine Brock Bowers, the really impressive tight end from Georgia, is somebody that goes ahead of the Cowboys in all likelihood. But Bowers is a guy who, man, if you want to just say, give me one player, one game who has the most impressive tape from last year, you might say it's Bowers against Auburn. Brock Bowers was incredible against Auburn. And so, Bowers probably goes ahead. You're not likely in the market for a first-round receiver. Maybe if somebody gets pushed down to you, but, you could very easily you'll definitely see three receivers. You'll see Malik Neighbors. You'll see Marvin Harrison Jr. You'll see Roma Dunze from Washington. And then you may see somebody like Bryan Thomas from LSU go ahead of you. So you start looking at this and you start feeling a little bit better about some of these offensive linemen.
And you're probably going to get Edge. You're probably going to get Turner could go before you for sure.
I would imagine Terrion Arnold goes ahead of you
Arnold
as well.
Will
the corner
go.
from
Maybe
Alabama.
Mitchell. Maybe Mitchell goes.
Quinion Mitchell from Toledo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some guys this could potentially push some offensive linemen down to you. So let's talk about this offensive line group, Bryan. I personally right now have, and I know that there are some people who have even more than this. I have 6 offensive linemen graded as first rounders right now, and a lot of others that are really high second round, and that I'd probably feel okay taking at 24. But just kind of give us an overview for yourself of this offensive line class from center to guard to tackle, just kind of at the very top of the draft anyway. Your first round guys, a quick overview of them.
Yeah, I feel like, all Fuaga, Fashanu, Guyton, Latham, Powers Johnson. Those would be guys, and I know Powers Johnson's the center, but those are the guys that I kind of have as first-round guys on my board. So that's 5 tackles, 1 center.
So that's Joe Alt from Notre Dame, Olu Fashanu from Penn State. You said
I don't have Fashanu. I don't have Fashanu.
You don't have Fashanu. You don't.
I take that back. I do have Fashanu. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Alt, Fuaga, Fashanu,
That's
Guyton.
Talise Fuaga from Oregon
Yeah.
State, Tyler
Yeah.
Guyton from Oklahoma.
Yeah, and then Latham from. I had a scout tell me from a team, not the Dallas Cowboys team, another team. I had a scout tell me that he felt like that Latham. I asked, "Do you think he could be a left tackle?" And he's the Alabama kid, and the guy said, "I don't think he could be a left tackle. I think he's a right tackle only, but I think he could be an All-Pro guard." So I wonder if teams are putting him more in that guard slot than they are the offensive tackle spot.
It's interesting because you've got a few tackles in this class, Bryan, who, it's always been, the blindside blocker, the big left tackle, that guy. It's interesting that you named Guyton there, Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma, J.C. Latham from Alabama. You didn't even mention Amarius Mims from Georgia, who is an absolute freak show. These three guys right here who are, either top offensive tackles or guys we expect to be in the Cowboys range there. Those are three guys that I think a lot of people in the NFL would say those are right tackles. Those are not left tackles. Those are right tackles. Yeah. And then you've got some other guys, like you mentioned Latham. Maybe he goes inside. You've got Troy Fatanu from Washington.
Fatanu is a hell of a player.
Some people might think he's a guard. I think he can play tackle. I think
he can play tackle too.
But there are a lot of people who would put him at guard.
Yeah. Now, see, the problem I have with Mims, and this is just a psychological thing with me, I understand the player. I do. I get it. He's played 8 games.
Yeah.
That's my problem. And I don't mean to punish the kid, and I feel like I am, but I've got him in the spot where I feel like I'm comfortable taking him. Could he get to you at 24? Could he be? Yeah, sure. I love the Washington kid. I love Morgan at Arizona. Those are the types of player. I've seen Morgan play. If people have problems with Morgan, man, I've seen him play left tackle, and I've seen him play at a very high level, to the point where Latu from UCLA was going against him. They had to move him to the other side to get him away from him.
Yeah, that's Jordan Morgan from Arizona.
Yeah, Jordan Morgan from Arizona. And to me, if he was there at 24, now maybe him, maybe Frazier, if it comes
Zach
down to
Frazier, West Virginia.
West Virginia. Maybe now I'm thinking, okay, maybe Powers Johnson's gone. I don't know with Barton the situation. He might be there. But maybe
I heard some buzz coming out of Indy. There's a lot of people who think Graham Barton goes ahead of Dallas.
Okay, if that's the case, then does it go ahead? Is Powers Johnson is he still on the board?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, if that's the case, then I don't think I'm trading back. But if Powers Johnson's gone and it's Morgan and those kind of guys with Frazier on the board, I would consider backing up. I would consider backing up like we were talking about with the Buffalo trade. If Buffalo was trying to come up and get somebody, I would back up. To pick up that extra, pick up the third or pick up that 4 is what I would do.
Let's imagine you have tags touching on center and left tackle. You got 2 guys there, 24.
Who are the centers and left tackle? Just give me the names.
Well, who do you have most closely graded to Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon? What tackle would you have most closely graded to him?
Likely the Penn State kid.
Let's say, and Fashanu will not fall, but let's just for the sake of argument of trying to figure out the value
what I like,
of
just the
right
tackles that I like.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay.
Just
do Guyton then. Do Guyton if you want to.
Guyton and Jackson Powers Johnson. If they're right there for you at 24, which direction are you going?
I'm taking Powers Johnson.
Do you think center is the bigger need right now for Dallas?
Absolutely. Yes, I do. You're going to have a hard time moving me off the best center in this draft. You're going to have a hard time moving me off that guy.
What is it that you specifically want to see them improve from Biotish? Is it the power? Is it the mental processing? What is it that you're looking for?
I'd like to see the ability to secure the 1 and 3 techniques on the offensive line, or excuse me, on the defensive line. I'd like to be able to see that you work with that guard and you guys secure, and then there's a second level block. I'd like to see a guy that consistently gets up onto the second level, that doesn't get knocked down or get caught up or anything like that. I want to see a guy that I always talk about lateral slide, that ability to get his head across a 3 technique, reach a 3, scoop a 1, the 1 technique playing inside the shoulder between the guard and the center, or the 3 technique playing on the outside shoulder of the guard. I didn't see that. There's a reason why you didn't run the ball very well last year. And it's the center, and I hate to put it all on him, but the center and your point of attack blocking tight ends. You don't run the ball very well. And they drafted Schoonmaker to be that guy. And we all watched tape this time last year, and Schoonmaker was able to do something. He was not good enough this year. He wasn't. They tried him. He wasn't good enough. Now, maybe, a year in the weight program, you're understanding how to be a pro, maybe some technique work. But he was a good blocker at Michigan. He was not a good blocker for the Dallas Cowboys. I would have a hard time getting off a center myself.
If you take, curious about these two, if you take Jordan Morgan or you take Troy Fatanu from Washington, you're playing both of them at tackle?
Yes.
Okay, and that's with so you think them at tackle is more valuable than Tyler Smith at tackle and bumping them inside a guard? Or are you making that determination?
I don't see him moving Tyler Smith.
Okay, so you're making that determination separate from even considering Tyler Smith.
You know what? I think we're going to know what Tyler Smith is going to do after the draft. That's where I think this is going to happen. If they grab a tackle, Tyler Smith is still going to play guard. If they don't grab a tackle, then I think there's a possibility they kick him outside.
Who is a guard or somebody?
Does that make sense?
No, I think it does make sense. So you're saying if they grab a Jackson Powers Johnson, would you then think, okay, Tyler Smith maybe going to tackle and you're playing TJ Bassett guard?
That to me would be the best thing to do. I don't know if they would do that.
Is Jackson Powers Johnson the only first round graded center you have?
Yes, I have Powers Johnson, and then in the second I have Frazier. I have Frazier over Barton, and the only reason I have Frazier over Barton is because I've seen Frazier play center. And I also watched the Texas game, and I watched him handle Murphy and Sweat, and I kind of feel like, well, these are two of the better tackles in the draft. I watched him play very well against those two. I mean, is he going to have a harder assignment in the National Football League? Man, maybe a couple of times. But those are two pretty good players. But I haven't seen Barton play. Everybody tells me Barton is a center and all that.
Barton, I need to dig up tape for you from Barton's freshman year because
have you seen him play center?
He played center his freshman year at Duke. Now that's a long time ago.
How did you feel as he was a center?
Better.
Better.
I thought he was better. Yeah, I think you can. You're making a little bit of a projection, right? Because you're looking at a freshman player that you're having to then make a little bit of a projection based on what you've also seen from him. I think he's really smart.
Yeah, he's really smart. I mean, like I said, I love the player. Guy. I just don't. It's hard for me. It's like Mims and the number of games. It's a pause for me.
Is there a player you can recall back from your scouting days?
Wow, ask me. I don't know what I had for lunch today.
No, but you always remember some guy's name from '93 or whatever.
Yeah.
Is there a player you recall that had such little tape that gave you pause, that either boomed or busted, that you went, oh, here's an example of somebody, this is why it should have given us pause, or somebody that, because the guy that I think of just in recent history is Mitch Trubisky, where Trubisky played 1 year at North Carolina, and there was a lot of people that said it was just a year of tape. That's such little to go. A couple of years ago, and he went in the 4th round. He's not a first-round player. Sadiq Charles coming out of LSU. Sure. Yeah. A lot of people were like, there's such little tape on Charles.
Right. Yeah, I think that, you mentioned Trubisky. Way back in the day, Akili Smith. You want to start talking about quarterbacks. Yeah. Akili Smith. Ryan Leaf. Yeah. Ryan Leaf was kind of a 1-year guy. So I think you see it more at quarterback. But, I mean, I'd have to go back and dig out my draft boards and stuff like that of when I was back in the day of guys but they're guys. Trust me, there's some guys out there that's the thing that just scares me about the offensive line, But this team is excellent when it comes to plug and play guys. We can't say that enough.
Sure.
We can't say that enough about their plug and play offensive linemen. They've been outstanding on that.
So which would concern you more? That it sounds like what concerns you more would be, because if they're drafting Amarius Mims, I assume they're drafting him to play left tackle. If they draft Mims, which concerns you more, the 8 starts or the not seeing him play left tackle?
That a little both, Bob. A little both. Yeah.
And it's something that you got to consider for sure. You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast, the Love the Stars and Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Bryan, it is, like I said, it's our draft special today, our draft overview. So we're going to finish up this last segment doing things a little bit different, just kind of taking a look at, and we've talked generally kind of overview here, but just kick around some of the specific names we think right now could be in play at 24. And before we get to that specifically, here's what I'm curious about. Who are a handful of these guys, Bryan, that could present a CeeDee Lamb situation for you, where it's like they slide down to 24 and you say, man, it's not really a need, but this player is probably so much better than the guy that I could take right now that's a need that I got to say. So, like, for instance, I don't know, who's your top-rated edge rusher, for instance?
Latu, UCLA.
And Latu's got some medical questions, but
yes,
but
if
you've got a run and you're looking at a second-round graded offensive lineman versus Latu, is Latu somebody that you go, man, I know I've got a need, but Latu's better. I got to take Latu.
I'll give you a better one than that. The Minnesota safety,
Tyler Nubin.
Yeah, I'll give you. I mean, Nubin is a guy to me that, I mean, he's the 22nd player on my first round is probably going to be Wiggins, the corner from Clemson. That
all 140 pounds of Nate Wiggins.
See, that's the problem, and it will have the conversations that we had last year about our Mississippi State kid that went to the Commanders,
Emmanuel Forbes. Yeah,
Forbes. You know, we'll have that same conversation.
Which I will
say, this is a really good zone playing corner. You know, and he's really quick and all. But yeah, I get it. I thought I was looking at a 185-pound guy, and we weighed in probably 12 pounds less than that.
Yep, it was 173.
So that could be an issue. That could be an issue. Bobby, one of those wide receivers could be that guy, though.
How many first-round receivers do you have?
4.
Is it Thomas, Neighbors, Harrison, Odunze?
Neighbors, Harrison, Odunze, Thomas.
Okay, but it is those 4. So if Thomas would probably have the best shot of those 4, I would guess, to get down to you. So if Thomas is looking at you in the face, and it's who's your top tackle in the second round?
Morgan.
So if it's Morgan or Thomas, what would you do?
Well, I would take the first round wide receiver.
Would you?
Well, I mean,
over the guy you really buy in at tackle, who blocked up your first round edge rusher.
To me, that's where you look at this and you make your stack. You make your stack, and I have Morgan there. Morgan's probably going to be my 23rd or 24th player. Thomas is likely to be my 16th or 17th player. If you want to play the CeeDee Lamb game, that's the idea is to put these players where you would take them, and if the draft gods are going to throw me a bone, and like I said, what will probably happen? I bet you we get to 24 and Wiggins is on the board for the Cowboys.
Well, then let's run through this exercise. Then you got Jordan Morgan.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Jordan Morgan, your top of the second round tackle. Yeah. So I'm going to throw out a name. You tell me if you would take Jordan Morgan or this player.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas, receiver, LSU.
I have Thomas in the first round.
Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia.
I have Brock Bowers in the first round.
Latu, edge rusher, UCLA.
I have Latu in the first round.
Wiggins, corner, Clemson.
I have him in the first round.
And Nubin, safety, Minnesota.
I have him in the first round.
So you're taking all those guys over to, you're not window dressing at all.
I'm not window dressing my board.
Okay, good. I respect it.
The draft gods are telling me that, you know what? If there's a first, I learned this in the draft. I learned this. We took Quincy Carter. And we didn't have a first round pick. Kendrell Bell, linebacker, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
First round grade for your Dallas Cowboys in that draft. First round grade. But we don't have a first round pick. But we have a first round. Kendrell Bell makes it to us in the second round. Okay? And we take Quincy Carter. Clear the room, Quincy Carter. Here we go. Kendrell Bell gets picked right after Quincy Carter and makes AFC Defensive Rookie of the Year. that was a big lesson to me. That was a big lesson. Don't window dress your board. Don't jump tags. I get it. Dallas, they've done a good job of taking the best. They did. They all surprised us with CeeDee Lamb. They surprised us. That night of the draft, we were all in shock that they didn't take the LSU edge rusher that year. And they
Levon Chase on.
Yeah, they didn't take Chase on. They took CeeDee Lamb. And what happened? They got rewarded for it. And what did they do in the second round? Diggs was sitting there, who they were thinking about taking at 17.
Yeah.
That shows you how sometimes this works.
Do you remember who their last first round graded player was sitting on the board for them when they took Taco Charlton?
It wasn't Watt, was it?
No. It was Dalvin Cook, who of course went on to have a great career.
Oh, that's right, Dalvin Cook. That's right.
Yeah, great player. Great player. I'm curious, since you mentioned Quincy, where do you recall? I'm sure he was a second round graded player for you guys.
Yes.
So where was he generally in the stack? Do you remember, was he like in the 40 range, or where was he?
We did not do the stack at that time. They didn't do the stack. Okay. They didn't do the stack. It was just tags round by position is what it was. So what happens is, as the names are coming off the board, you could see exactly. It's like we drafted Jason Witten that way. We had a first round grade on Jason Witten. Parcells took Al Johnson, the center from Wisconsin, in the second round.
Boy, Dallas loves their Wisconsin centers, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Bill was like, I'm going to take this Al Johnson, Jerry. And we're all like, God dang, Witten's sitting on the board in the first round here, and we're in the second round. What are we doing? And then we got to the third round. I think it was 66 or 68, something. I can't remember exactly the number. And Jerry looked at Bill and goes, we're taking Witten, aren't we? And Bill goes, yeah, we are. We're taking Witten. But that just goes to show you, we got lucky there. That draft was very fortunate because it was like Dallas Clark, L.J. Smith, Mike Seidman. It was a draft full of tight ends, good tight ends. We got lucky that Witten just happened to get to us in the third round, or we would have missed out. But Bill's like, it's Al Johnson. We got to get this center and all that. And I'm like, but we got a first round grade on this tight end. And what are we doing?
Yeah.
And I hate that. I hate if you're not willing to draft, and my board could be wrong. Wiggins could be wrong at 173 pounds. That could be wrong there,
But if you grade him as a first round player, treat him like a first round player. If they're sitting there. Yeah.
Arnold, Mitchell, Wiggins, those corners. I love them all. I love them. I watch them play. But I'm not going to sit there and, if all of a sudden, and teams do this for need. If you think that, if you think Morgan's a first round player, put him in the first round. You put him where you're going to draft him, But like I said, I anticipate that, and maybe you shoot me down here. I anticipate that Wiggins will be on the board when Dallas picks at 24.
I think so, probably. But I also thought Forbes was going to get there because Forbes was somebody who is about the same size as and you got to remember, this is a little more extreme, but Bryan, Mike Zimmer took Dre Kirkpatrick years ago, and Kirkpatrick was a 6'1", 180 kind of guy. So he was a thinner corner. So if he's there, they very well could say, we want to go this way. And a lot of this could depend on what do they do with Stephon Gilmore? Do they bring him back? Do they have, those are the sort of things that they're going to have to ask. Just as we wrap up here, Bryan, your best guess right now at pick 24, who do you think it'll be?
I think it'll be an offensive tackle, whichever one of those guys where they're,
give me a name, Bryan. Come on. Don't fence riding.
No,
give me a name.
I don't. Okay. How much do you think they like Morgan? Do you think they like Morgan enough to take him? If all those guys I mentioned, all my tackles were gone, if it came down to Mims or Morgan, smart man, who would you take?
Mims.
Okay.
I don't even think about it.
I would take Morgan myself.
I think this team would take Mims.
Okay. Then that's probably who they're going to take. My argument would be the small body of work. That would be my argument. You know, and I would stand up in that room and I would argue that. I would say his body of work. Now, someone will say, well, the ceiling is this and that. And I'm like, fine. But, you know, we can watch all his games, you know, in one day. Every game.
Well, look, this is a process that evolves over time. We get more information. You all say it all the time. The media scouts catch up to the real scouts.
Have you noticed this though? Like, did you see Daniel Jeremiah's top 50?
Who did
a little bit different.
Who did he have jumped?
No,
did he have
he's got.
I'll say this.
He's got some jumpers. He's got some jumpers. And you know,
wonder,
Daniel's a scout. Daniel's a scout.
Yeah.
The thing I worry about is talking to people and groupthink. You know,
I wonder if we're gonna find that the media is higher on Jordan Morgan than the NFL. I think the media might be higher on him than the NFL is, but we'll have to see. I
like
wonder.
The player.
I like Morgan too. I think I might be higher on Morgan than the NFL is.
Yeah,
but
why do you think the NFL doesn't like Morgan then? We need to figure that out.
I need to run it. It's just I don't hear the same, like, it's not anything bad. I've heard it's just I don't hear
buzz.
I don't hear the buzz or the enthusiasm that like you remember you started to hear the Tyler Smith buzz and you started to realize, oh, we're behind on Tyler Smith compared to what the NFL thinks of him. Like you start to hear that a little bit. Let me ask you this,
Bobby, real quick as we get ready to finish this thing up.
Yeah.
Was Morgan's tape better than Tyler Smith's tape at Tulsa?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's better, but obviously the traits of Smith were out of this world.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
He led the nation holding and all.
Yeah.
A lot of people were poking holes in the kid.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that Morgan's tape is better than Tyler Smith's.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think you can make an argument that technically speaking, if you look at the Penn State tackles, Caden Wallace's tape from a technical standpoint is better than Fashionu's.
Oh,
but Fashionu to me is Fashanu. I would never take Wallace over Fashanu.
But let me give you another one. How about this one? When you look at Turner and Braswell at Alabama, Turner has some times where he's not rushing the passer all that great.
Turner had awful tape against Texas.
And Braswell led the SEC in pressures.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a traits league, man. It is a traits league.
It's a trait league. Yep, you're right about that.
So we'll have more of this every week.
You irritate the hell out of me, Bill. You know that? Belt. You irritate the hell out of me.
I'm a first round grade irritant. Just ask Carter Freeman, our video guy.
Carter hates me too.
Carter hates me. It's all right. I love Carter. It's fine. I'm okay with it. No, I'm gonna ask you every week because my answer is probably gonna change every week of who I think it's gonna be at 24. But every week we're gonna check in. Who do we think it is at 24 this week? Because it'll probably change every single week.
Michael Penix.
Yeah. Oh gosh, don't you start. Now you're trying to irritate me. I see what you're doing. You're trying to throw my quarterback out. That does it for us here today on the Love the Star podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. For Bryan Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. We will talk to you guys again next week. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.